You've gotten wiser. I've known you for a few years. You've gotten wiser.
Amen. Well, you're doing it. The
Right?
catch-all, the truck, the dumpster getting dropped, the whole thing.
Here's the thing, though. It's patience.
They didn't tell us that when we got our tax ID, that we had to wait for all this shit to make sense.
You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Ahlin, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. I know you haven't hit those buttons. Just press them, click the buttons, right? Leave a review, all of those things. I see you watching. You see me everywhere, I'm sure. But got my friend Dave Carroll on today. Dope Marketing. What's up, brother?
How you doing, my man?
How are you?
I'm good, dude. It's 80 degrees in Minnesota. It's that we've gotten past the like 3 or 4 weeks of like that great weather. It's like 70s. It's cool. Now it's just like, no, it's going to be like this for 3 months. Hot, muggy, swampy. I want to exercise outside. You better get up at 6, 5 earlier, something. But dude, doing good. Going into the summer. What is there already? As we record this, it's the first week of June.
That's right.
Dude, it's already 5 months through the year. It's over.
Isn't it crazy?
It is.
We're halfway. Like, it goes fast. Business goes fast. Life goes fast. Time goes fast. These grays keep coming in.
Dude, the grays. I was walking in front of Barin in the airport. We were down in Atlanta the other week. She's like, do you know what's there now? She's like, what? It was like, I always call it like the Bruce Willis, like the short hair with the gray in it. And apparently I'm just like a patch now. Wise in my years.
Yeah, we'll call it that. You've gotten wiser. I've known you for a few years. You've gotten wiser.
I by no means all figured out. I have my moments here and there working on it.
Well, for the listeners who have not heard about Dope Marketing or who Dave Carroll is, let them know.
So I actually am neighbors with my dear friend, Jim. We live very close to each other. Born and raised in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis area. Founded a company called Dope Marketing. We help roofing businesses do laser-focused direct mail with no minimum order. We try to make it very simple and easy is our goal every day. I've owned a power washing company for 14 years here in the cities. Home service is my jam. I've worn all the hats. Like, I guess what it comes down to it, starting it from mom's garage, being in the truck, doing the bids, jumping through the hoops, all of it. And it's not, I think roofing, it's harder to own a roofing company than it is to own a power washing company. There are some same or similar things dealing with homeowners or whatever. I think that the reactive nature of the roofing industry, whether you're retail or insurance, I think is a lot different. But dealing with homeowners is like a very relative thing. And Jim, you and I were talking about this before we got on live, was just like, focusing on doing more of what you're good at. That's what I learned in the power washing space. We service a 30-mile radius here in the Twin Cities, not as far north as Jim's cabin up in the Iron Range. But just understanding like, just because you're doing more of something doesn't mean it's the right thing. And as the world gets more in a place with Instacart, DoorDash, Amazon Prime delivery, just instant gratification, I think it's just more important to like get the right message in front of the right person. And that's what we've learned to do at Dope. That's what I've tried to learn to do in my life. That's what I talk to my friend Jim about when we're not on camera.
Yeah. That's the hardest thing, right? It's the hardest thing and the easiest thing. And you said one thing, retail and storm restoration companies, those are completely different animals in terms of how to get in front of the right person.
Amen.
But there's overlap also, right? But in a storm, I always like to say it's easy. You pull up your hail recon, you look at you know what I mean? You look at the map, you look at the hail swath, and you're like, I'm going there today.
Yeah.
They just got hit. It's easy to know who has a problem that you can solve.
Correct.
Yeah. On the retail side of things, it can be more challenging because it's harder to get to who needs your help. So you need more of a marketing effort, right? You need that brand presence, right? You need to be out there a lot more. But I always like to say the contractors that I know that are the most successful, and I'm sure a lot of companies that work with you or work with both of us, they're the ones that are the best at turning one into many.
Amen.
Right? It's the one yard sign goes in the yard, and you come back a week later and there's 10 yard signs in that neighborhood. And and that to me, that gift or that talent of turning one into many seems to be that if someone could get good at one thing from a sales and marketing perspective, I think that would be one thing to get good at.
I think there's things in business that we, as we scale, as we grow, that we want to stay involved in. Like I know me and you, Jim, both we're natural sales and marketing guys. We want to kind of have our hands on that part of the business. I don't think that ever has to go away. But there's one of my coaches talks to me about the real parts in business that make you successful are the boring things. It's the predictable, or call them data-driven decisions that are happening in your business. And I think there are times where we just want to get in front of everyone. We just want to grow. Why? Because it's growth. Of course I want to grow. But when you look at there's a stat that I've been reading about a lot lately, which is 3 to 7% of your target customer is actually actively looking for what you have right now. The other 93 to 97%, it's your job to get in front of those people to remind them what you do, the problems you solve, and why they should choose you as opposed to anyone else they could make the decision to buy from. And I think when you really start holding yourself accountable or responsible with who really needs what I have right now, you hit it on the head. It's a very different world between a retail market or someone that's not working a storm and an insurance-based storm market. It can be a little easier when you're in Dallas or Denver or Minneapolis or Kansas City this year, parts of St. Louis is banging, where it's just you know what to do, but it's still the same mentality of staying there and doing it long enough that people trust you. And so when you look at anyone's heard me talk before, I'm a broken record with this, but our friends at Harvard, Stanford, Yale, wherever, 7 to 11 touches for a cold consumer to remember a brand. Now, there are things that expedite that. If someone is in dire need of, you're a lawn care company and there is a bug in the neighborhood eating the lawns up and a treatment would save it, it's going to be easier to close those people than someone on the other side of town that doesn't have that problem. Or put that to a hailstorm. There are people here that need you a lot more right now. What that means is you just need to spend more time making sure those people know who you are when they decide that they need you. Because we've all done the fly by your pants, take what's coming in, do a little bit of everything. But the companies that I see, I've only been in the roofing space for 4 years. As far as truly intimately understanding this industry. But in those 48 months, what I've learned is that the more you establish yourself in a local market, it's not only the short game. The companies that I see go from $1 million to $3 million to $7 million to $20 million in 4 years, I've seen a couple of them. They're just staying consistently boring with the things that are working well in their business, regardless if they are in a storm market or a retail market. And so I think the predictability, Jim, and we were talking about this a little bit before the call, is just it's kind of easy. I don't mean to downplay the work that goes into it, but it's somewhat easy to understand how to spend your minutes in the right areas, because it's kind of as simple as just focusing on the neighborhoods you're having success in.
Yeah. And our friend Joe Hughes and Benny, talk about being
5 Mile
5 Mile
famous.
famous. Right. There's lots of ways to put this, right? There's, the program that we put together with you guys, we call it neighborhood domination. It's all about just serving that community. I had I don't know if you know Lisa Cimaroli. She's from down in Jacksonville, Cornerstone
Okay.
Cornerstone Restoration.
Yeah.
They do door to door. Like Lisa and I joke, or she was at one of my presentations joking that they're a multi-8, or they do 8 figures plus, and she didn't even have a website.
From banging.
Straight, boots and knuckles, man. But consistency of effort, right? Mm-hmm. When I have a lot of conversations with contractors that, man, everyone's already at the door. It's the 4th day already, and it's too late to go to that neighborhood. Lisa's team works that neighborhood for at least a year.
Just see,
12 to 18 months. But they do, and what do? The same thing. They knock on the door and have a conversation, and they knock on the door and have a conversation, and they knock on the door and have a conversation. So I think I love where you're kind of where this is going, and talking about that consistency of effort. It doesn't matter what it is. It's that there's a consistency of effort, right?
I was talking to one of the big PE companies. I won't name drop them, but one of the ones you see online doing a lot of acquisitions right now. They got a figurehead that's out there with it. And we were on a call last week. We do a bunch for these guys. And they were like, we want to be the first one in the mailbox or else it's not worth it. And I was like, dude, let's just call him Jim. It's like, Jim, what if you weren't the first one because everyone's distracted and busy and ignoring it? What if you were the one that was there for the next 6 months consistently? Because you're already dude, you're big. You're doing the billboard. You're doing TV. You got your wrap trucks. Your signs are all over. You're knocking. You're shaking hands. You're kissing babies. You're saving cats from trees. You're all over the place. Why do you need to be the first one? Or your mind goes, well, if I'm not first, I'm last. This isn't Ricky Bobby. We don't need to look at the, consistency creates trust. Simplicity breeds systems. If you look at of touches have value, right? A door knock, a face-to-face is one of the most intimate interactions you can have with a homeowner. They're seeing you, they're smelling you, touch them, you see their kid, you make, all of it. But all those different touches of that nice looking truck, that good looking sign, the Facebook ads where you're on the video, they're seeing you, all of that other intimacy that was created, I was able to take some very smart, successful people that, again, to your homie Lee down in Florida, multiple 8 figures. I think they might be working towards 9, these guys that I'm talking about. But it's just taking that mentality of there's so many corny analogies around this, but just small bites, just small, consistent bites, just eat the whole thing, wherever you want to go with it. The ability to just look at and it's a really simple exercise. Again, I don't like to downplay technology or when you start using words like automation, everyone's like, oh God, where are these nerds going? But dude, if you just take your customer list from Q2 of last year, you take all the jobs you built and you get the addresses of those jobs and you just sort it by zip codes and you take your top 3 zip codes and you allocate, I've talked to clients where it's up to 70% of your marketing budget for the rest of Q2 in those areas where you were working last year. It might not be the most exciting thing in the world. It might not be trying all this new shit and looking at stuff, but the data in your business would tell you that if the majority of your jobs are coming there, you're doing something right enough to now keep doing more of it and have the same or similar result happen more than if you tried some new shit on the other side of town that you've never done before. And it's not that has to be the only thing you're doing in your business, but I love what you said about, it was Lisa, right?
Yeah.
It's not the first week. It's not the first 4 days. It's not the first, it's you go into a neighborhood and you're just the one that's there all the time where they're ignoring everyone else on the blitzing side of it. But if it's just that consistency, who are they going to pick?
Sometimes they'll pick you, sometimes they won't. But that's but you're giving yourself the best opportunity. I always wonder, I bring it back to like this real simple one. Why don't people who start businesses tell their friends and family about their business? Right? Do you notice that? Like, I noticed that. Like, it's crazy to me that like if you start a roofing company, your first, everyone has 250 people or whatever it is, right? Like, your first people are those people. Like, that's the first people. They already know you. Hopefully they like you, maybe they trust you, but that's a good place, right? You're getting them to make sure that they know what you do. Then you move up to the next layer, the people nearest you, right? Then you move up to the next layer. As you build this out, like what you're saying, now you have a couple of years of job history. Oh, these neighborhoods, we do really well in these neighborhoods. Let's go double down there. Let's sponsor the Little League in Plymouth, Minnesota. Like, let's,
Yeah.
What consistency of effort. Here's the thing, though. It's patience.
They didn't tell us that when we got our tax ID, that we had to wait for all this shit to make sense.
My goodness.
Who'd have thunk it?
I had this, but for the audience, I did a lot in the real estate markets and real estate investing over the years. And we were down in Texas outside of Houston looking at some deals. And I met a gentleman in Huffman, Texas. And he was an engineer that immigrated from India. He in his first job in the United States, when I met him, he was probably in his late 60s. In his first job in the United States, he asked his boss, "How do you get rich in America?" His boss said, "Land."
Good advice.
Land.
Good advice.
Good advice, right? Like, so he started buying land and started buying land and started buying land. And he has most of the developed land in Huffman, Texas was probably developed by him. And every year he would put in a few more, a few more 100 feet on that road, and he'd build a couple more houses. He put in a few more feet, had it all plotted, the whole thing. And what he said, though, what his joke about it was, that guy never told me it was going to take my lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. How do you get wealthy? Land. He forgot to ask the question, how long is it going to take? Right?
Yeah.
And I always think of that, man. I'd love that was back in like 2006 when I met that guy, which tells you how old I am. But it was like, this was like, it's the journey of it. Right. And a lot of times,
yeah,
the bills have to get paid.
Yep. Got to work.
Bills have to get paid, yep. Right? So you got to get you do have to make something happen. But at the same time, I think that there's, maybe there's, and what do you think about this? Like, what percentage of effort goes into long-term and what goes into short-term? And maybe that's different at different stages of your business.
Yeah, I think it goes to so the way I like to look at businesses is in kind of 3 phases. Take this with a grain of salt, but you have your first year to 3 years. Like, you just started, you're figuring out, it's exciting, it's stressful, it hurts, it's fun, it's painful, it's all of it. Like, in that first 1 to 3 years, some people stay in a version of that forever. We'll get to that in a second. But then you have that middle, that like 3 to 7 years where you're like, okay, I phased myself out of some stuff I don't want to do. I'm actually making a little money. My life is I'm not struggling to pay these bills as much as like looking at a new truck. The wife is getting some new stuff. I'm having fun. This looks a little more like what I thought it should now. Then you have those people that stayed in year 1 to 3 and then jumped to year 7 where they're still like in their own way, being a little difficult, not realizing that like when you have a consistent problem, it might be time to look in the mirror type of behavior. Like, every single person you deal with is not the exact same. If you're getting the same or similar result out of 7 out of 10 of your interactions and you're not happy with them, it might be time to pull the mirror out and be like, we got a little work to do. But I think when you look at those 3 phases of business, you're new, you're young, you're excited, depending on how much money or time or knowledge you started with, some of that can be expedited. But in that phase, you got to look at like, you're doing a lot of everything. And depending on the knowledge you came in with, the finances you have access to, the things, some people can expedite to that year 3 to 7 kind of quick. You see that in the roofing industry, especially with some of this PE money coming in and the roadmap has been laid. There's a bunch of these like people that I legit met 4 years ago sold their company for tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And when I saw them, they were fucking project managing residential job sites. No bullshit. Like I can't tell too many stories, but like there's been some people that came into some real dough and they worked for it. They set some stuff up to make it happen like this. I think when you look at like the phases of business and the decision making, the self-awareness, the work you want to do, like, look, there is a version of everyone's life where you could stay doing what you're doing today forever and it would all be fine. It'd all be like it is today. I think that a lot of us have that desire for a little bit more. We want to grow. We want to expand. We want to be able to truly like look at, could this go further? Or could I do a little bit more? It was, did you catch the fight this weekend? I was pulling up this quote.
The Poirier fight?
Yeah. So I'm not a huge Poirier fan, but I love his story. I love his background. I love like all of it. And when he got interviewed after the fight, he lost. He lost to the current champ, to Islam.
To the current champ.
And the woman asked him, she was like, dude, so how do you feel right now? And he was like, man, one, I trained for this. I was in the moment the whole time. I felt like I could win this fight the whole time. And he's like, I felt good. I felt fluid. I felt as good as I've ever felt. And then I lost. And I realized that like, this is done. Like I'm probably done in my career right now. I'm not going to get another shot. This is what and he's had it. He's been the champ before for a little while, like he tasted it. He's been through it. But one thing he said was, without gratitude, nothing is ever enough. And not to get on a straight hippie woo-woo tangent on self-care or anything. But when you look at those phases of life or what you're responsible for, it's just being honest with yourself. Like, how busy do you want to be? What do you want to be focused on with your time? What are the things you want to look at? And I'll keep this to business, not the 9 to 5 and the parenting and the life and the stuff. But when you just look at those 3 phases of business and it's like, what are you responsible for? You just got to ask yourself, like, what's a 1 week decision versus a 1 year decision in my business? What'll happen if I focus on this right now? If I stop everything I'm doing, I focus on this one problem, make that the biggest thing. Or if I look at how this process, where are we going to be in a year? And how could I deal with this the best way to make a longer term decision? That's where I've seen a lot of growth, especially with these like very quickly scaling roofing companies.
Intentionality, maybe, right? There's an intentionality. I always talk about, it makes me think of the way I frame customer service versus customer experience. I've probably told you this before. Like customer service is reactionary. A customer experience is intentional.
Yeah.
So if you're, and I'm like, I think, if you are being intentional about your business and your life, you get these things. On the other side of that is customer service, which is reactionary. So it made me think of that same thing, but flip that into your business. Mm-hmm. Like you have to make the choice to either be intentional or to be reactionary in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it goes back to what we were discussing a minute ago around like the neighborhoods or focusing on the things that are working. It's like, if you really looked at how could I simply get in front of a homeowner more that showed interest in the problems that I'm solving? Those of you in storm markets, it is a little bit easier. You're working there, you're busy, you're having to go back there. Like there's more touches happening already. But now it's like, if you put yourself in that mindset, how can I get there first? How can they know about me? How can I be what if you flipped that to being intentional of what actions could I take to create a little bit more trust? Fair to say that like a lot of homeowners have kids, not all of us, I know, but like, what if you were doing something kind of cool with like a leave behind of like a bag of something cool for the kids? Or what if you were doing something that just made it a little memorable? Like, I think the stat is like 52% of Americans own a dog, as crazy as that is. What if you had something that you left like, hey, if you had a dog or for your friends to do, leave a little dog treat behind with your just like that differentiate. There's a really good book called Giftology by Jim Ahlin. And I don't believe every chapter, every minute of it, but they go really big into that book around like that being like intentional and doing it in a granular way. You had mentioned, Jim, something as small as like sponsoring the T-ball team in his guys. Do you know how much that shit costs? It's like $1,000. Like it's not a big thing. But when you look at, it's not necessarily that reactionary race to get someone to know about you first. It's how do you intentionally get your messaging, or like if you asked yourself the question, like, why do people hire you instead of your competition? Ask yourself that question for a minute and then figure out how to lean into that. Like, what messaging is it that your spouse team and you both work in the business? Is it that you grew up and your dad taught you how to do this? Is it that you went to school in the area and you were an accountant and you saw that it's hard to run the finances for a roofing company? So you teach, like, whatever your story is, if you can think about, we had mentioned like Joe Hughes and Benny with the 5 Mile Famous, or the neighborhood domination from roofer marketers, or like anything, whatever you want to call it. But instead of talking about like how your inspections are the freest or your drones fly the fastest or whatever it is, just like, what makes you you, and how do you just be a little bit more intentional of making sure like that's the messaging that gets across? Because that's the 3 to 7 year play. That's the like, you're planting the seeds in the right area. It's coming back from the right people. You're investing in the 93 to 97% of people who are more likely to use your services, but just might not need them right now. The average homeowner lives in their house for 5 to 7 years in the United States. They might not need your roof today. What about next year? And what have you done to kind of plant that seed? I like where you go, Jim, with the intentionality behind that versus the reactive nature.
Yeah. And we're talking about intentionality from a long-term perspective, but you can get intentional in that neighborhood too, right?
Absolutely.
So there's always knocking the 6-pack, the 12-pack, however you want to frame it.
Yep.
There's, the things, with the dope marketing, with the getting direct mail sent right around those customers. We do Facebook ads around the around the jobs that you're doing. Like there's intentional ways to do it also quickly, signs in the yard. We have a contractor we work with that I interviewed him on the podcast many years ago, John Roden with Roden Roofing in Wichita. He talks about it as putting on a show for the neighborhood.
Amen. Well, you're doing it. The catch-all, the truck, the dumpster getting dropped, the whole thing.
Yep. Everything, all with intentionality.
Dude, we had a client down in Austin murdering it with this strategy to where we implemented for every roofer. Not only do the postcards go out to the neighbors when you're using Job Nimbus, you mark the job approved and the postcards automatically go out to the nearest 25 neighbors. We did it with the handwritten notes where the nearest 10, after the estimate is given, before the job's even approved, let's say it's $5 a handwritten note. So they're spending $50 after they do an estimate. The nearest 10 neighbors say, Jim, just wanted to let you know I was checking out your neighbor's roof and there might be some storm damage. If you think you were affected by the recent storm or have a same or similar problem to your neighbor, give me a call. And it's a handwritten note with the front of it's in an envelope with the blue pen, with the whole dance, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You're tricking them to read it. They think it's a wedding invitation, but they open it when they get home. And on the back of it is written with that note that we're talking. The front of it is a picture of their team. It goes, Dave's Roofing, we're local, 20 years, whatever their thing is, right? My dad did this. I did this for a while and I learned it. I'm here with my kid. Whatever your messaging is, that reinforcing of just like, so that's why I picked this. They stood out. I got a handwritten note from the project manager in that area. Those little things, those little tiny tweaks, those little tiny things that just get people. Like a lot of salespeople are watching or listening to this right now. You guys know what I know about all of us? Anyone watching? We're salespeople. We're easy to sell to. You just play with our heartstrings a little, make you feel like you know us. We already had our mind up. We know what we're going to buy, but just make me feel like you know me a little bit or understand my problem. I'm like, dude, I'm buying anyways. It's why I'm here. But if you give the average consumer a reason to feel like that, Just makes everyone's job a lot easier. Like
Yeah.
everyone involved in
I
it.
would say good marketing makes salespeople order takers. Or the goal of marketing.
Say that. Yeah.
Let's do it this way. The goal of marketing is to make salespeople order takers.
I was just harping on about our sales manager today. Like, this is too easy. They're just taking orders. This was this morning. Apparently, we're again moments.
Good marketing.
It was for signs. They're pretty cheap at dope. Like, I get it. But yeah, it was funny you say that because it's so true. Like, good marketing makes a salesperson more of an order taker. It's not to take away. You have a good sales team, but like, ask yourself, like, what are some things that I could do, as much as we all love it, especially at like beginning of the month where we're setting our commission checks for like, the last thing we might want to always think about is how do I make my sales team's job easier? But like when you truly, the long-term decisions based on longevity, based on intentionality, how could you make your sales team's job easier?
From the initial phone call, the way that the appointment is set, the expectations that are set there, between the inspection and that appointment set, what are you sending to those customers in physical mail, digital, video, emails, text messages? Like all of it just builds upon itself, right? And then they get to the sale. What can make it easier at the kitchen table? What can make it easier through the communication, through the production process? What can turn them in? What makes it easier to turn them into a raving fan?
It's a thermometer going up, and it's the trust meter, and every touch adds to the trust meter. They saw the door hanger, they saw the truck, they saw the Facebook ad, they saw the billboard, they just all of it. And we're so lucky to be in a world where like you don't have to spend $10 million like a Home Depot does in the first month of opening to let them know you have a new location. I was going to drop a gem for anyone not doing billboard advertising currently. If you look up Blip, BLIPP, no endorsement. We use it for dope actually. You can look up your zip codes and see like Jim in the Twin Cities. They're like, there's a couple in Newport, there's a couple off 494, but it's like New Brighton out there or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But you can buy billboard space on those digital billboards, just like Facebook ads. And like you could spend $10 a day, $100 a day. And it's a fascinating model. Blip actually gets a contract with the digital billboards and says, I'll buy all of your unused traffic. And depending on the board, but dude, like we were running them nationally in hot markets, right? Miami, Dallas, stuff where we have clients. Dude, we were getting we still do get DMs to our Facebook page of screenshots of them from either people we know or just people like, hey, I saw this. And they're legit taking a pic. And our billboards are simple. It says dope marketing or direct mail made simple or something like that or whatever. But when you go to those touches, like you think about if you had to draw around like a good neighborhood, like let's go Twin Cities, right? North Oaks, Bear Path, some out like by where we live, whatever. Where it's just like, how could you get twice as many touches in the neighborhoods you're currently, and just make a list of this shit. Just write it down. Like, I could do more of this. I could try this. I saw a dude online doing this, like whatever. How could you double the touches? And I just mean exposure to your logo. That's it. That's all a touch. Like, see the company's name. If the average local business is getting 2 to 4 touches on their ideal customer, what are some ways that you could double the touches you're getting to the neighbors of your current jobs? And what would that do for your business?
Real estate agents, I think that the real estate industry does this.
Yeah. Well,
they focus on a neighborhood or niche. So they call it farming. So they farm a neighborhood. Yeah. Or they focus on a niche, golf course properties or, downtown condos or whatever their niche is, right? Yeah. But for the farmers, it's a monthly newsletter goes out to the neighborhood. And there's just
I've been on the same bus stop for 4 years. I do I'm in the BNI meeting. I'm in the local coffee shop thing. And it's just like
everything.
I remember the lady in the neighborhood I grew up in, her son went to our school. Her name was Phyllis Selman. I'll never forget because Phyllis was who you went to buy a house in that part of Highland Park. Like She did it. She knew it.
And the only reason you knew that is because she sent stuff to your house over
and over
for decades. For decades.
She's still doing it.
Yeah. With that mindset, like, can the local sports team schedule be on their fridge with your logo?
It's another touch. The stuff where you see in the Facebook groups, does it work to put my logo on the grocery store shopping cart thing? It does if you're not going to complain about the $900 it costs to do it for 6 months in a row, to not see anything from, but to invest in the fact that, like, they saw it there and they saw it here and they saw it here. And it's just that trust thermometer going up and it's the longer play. Are there ways to get more leads generated for your business all day? But you go to, like, the foundational building blocks of building a brand and becoming the go-to. It's predictable.
Yep. And then it's like the other thing I think people that are listening are going to think about, well, what's a shortcut, right? Like, how can I shortcut this? And I think that we'll talk, get your thoughts on some of this. Some of these were shortcuts over time.
Sure.
But they're not shortcuts today. There was a time where Google Ads was a shortcut.
Correct.
Because not a lot of people were investing money in Google Ads.
Correct.
SEO was a shortcut because not a lot of people were investing in SEO.
Correct.
Facebook ads was a shortcut because a lot of people weren't investing in Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Google local services ads was one of the most amazing lead flow. Like, if you got in on that early, my goodness. And the contractors I talked to in 2019 in Dallas that got in, I'm like, just know that this is only going to get more expensive. Like, the lead cost will only go up, which is the same thing for all marketing efforts, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if being ahead of the curve on certain things, but that takes you got to put your money where your mouth is in a lot of these. You got to put your effort in your mouth. It's not the first thing to do.
If you think, like any smart business owner, right? What's the shortcut? How do I expedite any of this? More touches to less people. Not a shotgun approach, but truly dialing in and go, okay, Dave, great. Like, that's not, dude, it's still, and this is one that's kind of like rode the wave because it's not platform specific, but dude, if you can get videos of you talking about what you do and the problems you solve in front of people, especially people that have, like, you go to the show, right? Putting on a roof is not like a small event. It might have gotten optimized. It's quick now, a lot quicker than it used to be, but still like that, prepping the neighborhood, having the conversations, doing the stuff. Jim, it's one of the stuff you guys do really well is that, like, just making sure that people in the neighborhoods you're working in can see videos of you doing what you're doing because it expedites the searching for a review. Like, some of the big companies, even the ones that I've seen with the PR stuff or the ones that are acquiring other brands or doing whatever. Dude, talk about Ray Little for a minute. Ray is still on a roof every day, and these guys are, talk about someone doing it and doing it right. For anyone that hasn't seen Perimeter Roofing and what they're up to, you want to emulate something. One, just like good humans doing good shit. Some guys that have been through some stuff and, like, putting good back into the universe through using the roofing industry. Ray Little at Perimeter Roofing is a dude doing exactly that. But now you look to the scale and how hard this fucking dude works. Part of what they do so well in this company is they highlight what they're doing all day. If you are in a market where a perimeter location exists, it doesn't matter the platform. TikTok, LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Instagram, all of it, you are seeing video of them talking to homeowners, up on roofs, pulling up to houses, chainsawing a tree in a front yard, doing something, not only talking about the expertise, how long they've been around, the problems they solve, like all of that stuff, but truly, like, using what we have at our disposal right now, technology, online, best practices, video content. How many times do you have to see a different video of someone until you're like, okay, I get it. I don't have to look at the reviews. They're clearly doing this on I'm sitting in front of my face every day. I believe them. I don't even have to like the post. I believe that that's going on. And I think it's one of the things, and coming from a guy who kind of put some content out and stuff, dude, I go in gaps or breaks with it too, dude. Last May, I was not doing a lot of our like short form focusing. We had a lot of stuff going on in the business. And we saw, like, you watch the questions people are asking, the content you're putting out in front of them. And with a roofing company, I'm not saying you got to be, Tony Robbins on video all day. But if it's you, if it's your team lead, if your salespeople, if someone in your company likes doing this shit, someone, just have them talking about what you're doing all day. That's the shortcut, because it expedites. They see 2 to 4 of the touches that all of you are getting right now. All of you are getting 2 to 4 touches with your ideal customer, whether you know it or not. It's happening. When you start like putting intentionality about those people seeing videos of you doing what you want to do with them, it just makes them believe you more that you are the right decision. And this is where it goes, like, one of my favorite sayings in life is like, perception outweighs reality. But a first impression lasts forever. So it doesn't matter if you're a 1-year business, 3-year business, 10-year business. If you show up, give a fair price, do exactly what you say you're going to do, and don't collect the check until the job is done, you're that company that's been around for 50 years. And I don't give a shit if you're in Dallas and opened yesterday. You can still like use that mentality to just show up, be who you are, just show the people what you're doing. So again, it's a long-winded answer, but it's like, what's the shortcut? Use the internet to get yourself on video, to just show people what you're doing all day, because it'll make them believe you.
It's crazy. So I think Gary Vee just put out the new book, Day Trading Attention. I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but I think that's his whole premise is that it's just putting yourself out there. So maybe in a simple form, it's putting yourself out there. That's the fast track, right? Put yourself out there, get in front of as many people as possible. How do you do that? How do you get them to like you, trust you? And video, it is crazy. Both of us walk around roofing shows and people know us. It's one of the weirdest things that I've ever had.
There will be someone at a roofing show, Jim, that you go to roof or whatever at this year that have never met you, and they know you because of the videos you put out.
They know everyone listening right now. Say hello. Walk up, say hello. Like, we can have a conversation.
Straight up.
And it's only because you've listened and watched and listened and watched and listened and watched you're like, man.
I like Jim. He knows what he's talking about. He's got at least half a brain in his head around this stuff. Like, it's all relative.
It's that simple. So I love that. I love the shortcut. The shortcut now, today, right? So it's not, it's not this. It's not TV. It's not, I'm sure that TV was a shortcut at some point in time, right? Because not as many people were advertising on television. Like, for every advertising or marketing channel, there was a time where it was an immature channel. TikTok was one of those things that, like, get back to Gary Vee, like he was saying, get on TikTok. Years ago. And the people that got on TikTok and made a push there, man, it's for a lot of them, it worked out, right? And but it's the video content. I love that idea. Video content is the way to go. The easiest way to start with that, in my opinion, is just answer the questions that you get asked most often.
Amen. Yep. And it's a relatively simple exercise. Sit down with your sales manager, your office manager, whoever, like, what are the top 10 questions we get asked by our customers before they buy our service? And just go, how do you hire a roofing contractor in Minneapolis? What are 3 things I need to know before I put a roof on? What are some of the common issues when dealing with an insurance claim for a roof? What do I need to do to protect my plants that I just planted this spring if I'm considering getting a new roof this summer? If I have a pool, can the roof start my pool on fire? Just go through the standard stuff what are you asked? prior to providing the service that someone hired you for.
Yeah. And in this, I think the main lesson is continue doing what you do. Develop consistency of effort. Now it's time, Dave. Now it's time for you to get in your hippie ice bath and, meditate and do your yoga while you're, I don't know what you're doing in there, but mindset, like just some last thoughts on mindset that you've developed over the years and what people might be able to take, or some new learnings that you've had, in your journey more recently.
I'll take it back to what I was talking about with that Dustin fight, because I just took a lot from that. You just look at like people that have been through some hard shit, and then like they do some like kind of higher level stuff. And I'm not saying what Dustin or me or you or anyone doing is more special than what anyone else is doing, but when you see something like an idea you had and it starts growing really fast, and you just realize like what got you here won't get you there. I think like it's even like a word track thing. It's not like the work I'm going to do. It's like the work I'm doing today. What I did today, whether it was wake up a little early and not grab my phone, whether it was, go do some exercise stuff, go do some wellness stuff, go do like, pick your heart, dude. Life is hard. So like, if you can just understand that, it goes back to what you're saying, Jim, the being reactive, being intentional. I just challenge anyone watching or listening is spend some time with yourself before you get your day started, because no one told us how fucking hard this was going to be. This business that we started, that we're growing, that we're trying to figure out, like, that's not what we signed up for, dude. We were just trying to fucking not have to work with someone because we were probably a shitty employee. That's what it came down to it for a lot of us. We felt we could do it a little bit better on our own. And what I was talking to one of my guys this weekend about, it was just like, you just don't know what you're signing up for with all this hard shit. But the thing is, like, what got you here won't get you there. So if you're not doing the work every day to get better, what are you doing? And for me, I'll take it back to what Dustin said to kind of wrap this up. Dude, it's like nothing is ever enough without gratitude. And for any of you that start your day or have been in the past like me, of like checking email, checking Slack, looking at the bank account, looking at the stuff, where's the problem? I'm a problem solver. Of course I find what's wrong first. It's not about stopping to smell the roses. It is about realizing the flowers are growing. And when you actually take a step back, and sometimes no one else is going to do it for you. A lot of times we don't get the accolades outside. Oh, must be nice. Yeah, it is fucking nice that I work 90 hours a week. It's great. But giving yourself a pat on the back when you see shit going in a way that you've seen it gone before, taking a step back, interrupting the pattern, giving yourself a little pat on the back, like, I didn't send that fiery text message. I didn't speak my whole mind. I didn't need to be all the way right here. But realizing a little bit more that, like, you've built something in your life and you probably got a lot of people that depend on you during the day, down to like the one interaction they might have with you a day or a week or a month. And just taking it really serious, like the position that you put yourself in as a leader, as a spouse, as a parent, and giving yourself that time in the morning to prepare yourself for the world, but for a lot of us, to prepare the world for us, and just get in that mindset of just like, hey, I'm thankful, I'm grateful, I'm lucky that I got what I have right now because I worked hard with it. And just leading with a little bit more of that before you pick up your phone and get on Slack and start fucking taking the world over and being however you operate during the day at your worst. The work we do every day gets us to where we want to go. And that's been a big part of my past couple of years.
Awesome. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.